I'm Charles Cummings, candidate for mayor of Augusta, Georgia. I'm a former Army military intelligence captain. I have a 4-year college degree in public administration, and I have over 20 years of successful business experience in Augusta, Richmond County. My platform is simply this: fix the transit, lower property taxes, and help our young folks become entrepreneurs. I think with a full and robust transit system, we can improve our economy base because folks will be able to travel around for the enjoyment, for work, and for other necessities. As far as lowering the property taxes, we need to take the garbage bill off of the property tax and let it be a separate bill. And if we're going to pay 2 days bill, then we need to have a 2-day service. Otherwise, we split that bill in half, and then we'll take the bill and move it up to about March and let folks start paying on the garbage bill around March, and by November that garbage bill will be paid off. Take the property tax and move it to July, and by November they'll have most of it, if not all of it, paid off. You can put an extra turkey in the oven and a couple more gifts underneath the tree. As far as our young folks, we need to make them entrepreneurs. A lot of them come out of college, they're looking for jobs, but if you are a professional in any particular area, the city offer out different contract bids, and we got to get our residents who pay into the tax base involved with the bidding process so that they can become contractors and make money for themselves and hire folks and bring them on board as opposed to just looking for a job.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and open it up for questions.
I'll start. Excuse me, sir. You say you'd like to lower taxes. I'm sure you're probably aware that the city's running a deficit right now. Where would the revenue come from to make up for the lower tax collection?
Well, if you think about what I said in terms of lowering the property taxes, you're looking at, number one, taking the garbage bill and separating it from the property tax itself and moving it up to the top of the year so that folks can have an opportunity to pay it down. Now, if we are paying for a service that we are not getting, then that's just not fair to the citizens. And we, even though we have a budget deficit, we still have to keep the folks in mind, and we should only charge them for the services that they receive.
One of the things that you said in a recent forum was that the city administrator has too much power, and some of the power needs to be transferred to the mayor. So are you advocating changing the charter?
In terms of the power of the city administrator, yes, I am. I think that the mayor needs to have more power in terms of who's going to be fired, who's going to be hired. You know, decision making should ultimately come through the mayor as a decision as opposed to information. So yes, I am advocating that the mayor, the charter be changed to indicate that the mayor will have a voting right and also have more power.
Mm-hmm. How would you go about getting that done, given all the, the political ramifications and all the stuff that would have to be done to get that change made?
Well, in order to get that done, of course, you're going to have to submit a proposal. That proposal will outline the needs of that change, and will also outline some of the problems that we've experienced in the past, and then we'll also allow the public to have an opportunity to weigh in on that decision, whether or not they want the mayor to have that power. And then they can vote on it, or we can get a general consensus on it, and then we can move forward with that proposal.
What if the commissioners won't go along with you?
Well, if the commissioners won't go along with it, then hopefully they will have converse with their constituents, which will be their resident in each district. We got 10 districts, and if those guys are communicating with the residents, because that's what I intend on doing as your mayor, I'm going to visit the different commission meetings that they hold, and I will be available to talk with them, not to override the commissioner, but just to be a present in the community to converse with them. If they want to ask my opinion about certain things and why I feel we should do certain things, then I'll be available to discuss that with them. Now, if they tell their commissioners we don't want that mayor to have that kind of power and they vote no, then we just move on to the next agenda.
Charles, there's a certain amount of being an ambassador role involved in being mayor of Augusta, not just kind of nuts and bolts, day-to-day type operation. Tell me why you think you're the best candidate for mayor as far as being the face of Augusta.
Being the face of Augusta is very important, and being the ambassador for the city of Augusta is certainly, a role that I am cut out to do. As a former Army military intelligence captain, I have been involved in many different kinds of meetings. I've traveled far and abroad to interact with various kinds of people, and to be able to take forth the message of Augusta, that this Garden City is a beautiful place to live, be able to influence and encourage folks to move here, live here. I am the guy. I'm an advocate for sports, I'm an advocate for arts, I'm an advocate for business creation, and I'm certainly an advocate to improve our transit system. Our transit system is a small, tiny seed that we're going to plant to receive this massive increase that we're looking for in this city.
Can you elaborate on what role you played in being Army Intel Commander or Captain, and how that may give you a leg up on some of your challengers, considering we have such a high presence of military in our area?
Well, as a military intelligence officer, Cyber Command is basically military intelligence. And there are jobs that I've done that I can't even talk about. And I've traveled to Russia, I've been to Europe, and been in different places. As a captain, my job is to communicate information and back and forth. So I've talked to folks at different levels, generals and ambassadors as well.
Specifically, how would you improve our mass transit situation in Augusta? What are some of your ideas or concepts?
My idea is simply this. Let's just take the hotels in Augusta, for instance. We got 7,000 rooms available for rent each and every day, and we generally rent about 5,000 rooms. Those 5,000 rooms generate $1.2 million daily. Now, if we take the $1.2 million and mobilize it throughout the community by way of transit, then that folks go out and they buy up our services and goods. And here's what I propose. I think that, with the hotels that we have, the fine hotels, the Marriott, the Holiday Inn we just opened up down the street there, we put the kiosks would have a information center that you could go to, and it would tell you if you want to go dining, if you want to go golfing, if you want to go dancing, or whatever your choice may be. You just press on that option and they give you a large printout of what's available. And then also that kiosk will provide you the new and improved bus schedule route. And you just press on that, so that bus will be coming right out front in the next 5 minutes. So you know where you want to go, you know what time the bus is going to come, you go out and get on the bus, and then you take that bus to your destination. Now, what we got to do is, right now, as the bus system operates, it only operates 6 days a week. It shuts down at 8 o'clock at night. It only starts at 6 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't run on any holiday. Now, in order for us to have an effective transit system, that has to change. What I want to point out is simply this. That is not something that McDonald's could do. It's not something that mobility can do. And of course, those are the contractors that we've dealt with over the last two contractors. And putting it in-house, it would still be the same thing, because that blueprint has to change. The blueprint is simply running 7 days a week. Instead of shutting down at 8 o'clock at night, let it go to 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and then starting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. That would enable the folks who live in and come by and visit and tours in our hotels to use that transit system. Because when you go to a city yourself, you tend to fly in, you go to the hotel, you depend on that transit to get you around town. You know, you go where, let's say you go to Chicago or New York, then the transit is a convenience and not an issue. Here in Augusta, transit is an issue and not a convenience.
So you say that because if I'm correct in this, the transit system has operated at a deficit pretty much ever since its existence, am I correct? So, yeah. So I mean, so are you saying it's okay for the transit system to operate at a deficit, or should it pay for itself to be viable?
Let's understand what actually caused the transit system to move. The general fund causes the transit system to move. We got $18 million in the general funds right now. At one point, we had $28 million in the general fund. What creates general fund? Taxpayer dollars. What is taxpayer dollars? When your business out there is selling a product and the taxes come off that product and goes into the general fund. That bus system is simply a vehicle. It is employed by the city to get folks from point A to point B. Making a profit would be just a nice thing, but the transit system in itself is already paid for. If the bus go and pick up the little old lady on the corner and take her to get her prescription and bring her back, that's what the bus is paid for to do. And we got South Augusta where the bus don't even go on Tobacco Road. It doesn't go to Gate 1 or Gate 5. In fact, it goes down Deansbridge Road and make a right turn on Boyd Chapel, and it don't even go on Meadowbrook. It circumvents the area and does not provide adequate transportation. So folks who have a car should not be so hard on the folks who don't have a car and just determine that, well, you're a disabled vet, you're an old person, or you're a young person just getting out of jail, so we're not concerned about your transportation issues. We're concerned about the budget. But I submit to you, if we're concerned about the budget, we'll stop those splashes from using up so much money it's unaccounted for.
Now, you said that in another forum, you said that the fully developed transit system could generate $3.5 million a week for Augusta's economy. Where do you get that number?
You take that $1.2 million and you mobilize it out into the streets, you're going to find another $500,000 being spent throughout the city. Folks going to buy your souvenirs, they're going to buy your food up, they're going to eat up your burgers, they're going to drink up your beer, and then they're going to come back to that room. They're going to spend another $500,000. But you got to have a system that's going to get them all around town. Right now, if your person stay in a hotel room, they generally go to where they can walk to their destination. They just don't go. They'll buy something, they'll come back to the room, they'll cook it in their room.
You don't think that most motel guests in Augusta arrive in vehicles?
No, I don't think so. And even if they did, they probably want to park their vehicle and not get lost in the city, just ride the bus. If they want to go over to, and I don't know if they do or not, Susan, to be honest with you, but I think that they would rather park their car if we had an effective transit system and then ride over to Applebee's or ride up to somewhere in Augusta or wherever. They want to ride over here to where they used to stand in the Marriott, they can just walk downstairs, of course, but they may want to go somewhere else, you know. But I think they would use the transit system if it was clean and presentable and it was as more of a treat than anything else.
You've got some small business experience, and as a small business person, there's, cutting costs is paramount. There's areas where you can trim the fat here and there. Where would you do that with the city, or do you think that's necessary? And also, do you know what the city's total budget is?
No, I don't.
Okay. Have you identified any possible areas for cutting or trimming?
The first thing I would do is do audits on the splashes. The splash is supposed to have a annual audit so that we can maintain accountability of the cash flow. This particular splash coming up, Splash 7, they're asking for $194 million. And irregardless to what it's designated to go to, many times, like Splash 6, folks got money that wasn't on the splash. So, as your mayor, I would require a financial report on a daily or weekly basis to determine how things are going so that we can trace those dollars right down the line. If we can trace the dollars, I think that would close up and trim up a lot of the cash flow right there. Once we can figure out how many SPLOST dollars we can save, then we'll be on the right track to a good positive cash flow.
Now, you're not in favor of this particular SPLOST 5.
No, I'm not.
How would you have gone about it, to present it to the public in a manner that you would support it for this coming, I guess, May 20th?
Well, what's your name, sir?
Mike?
Mr. Wynn.
Yeah.
First of all, let me commend D. Copenhagen, our mayor. I think he's trying to do the best job he can possibly do. Not a bad fellow. And you got commissioners that wasn't present. I don't know why they weren't present. I wasn't there, wasn't in the meeting. I don't know why. But what was your question again?
What changes would you have made to the SPLOST to make it more palatable for you?
Well, first of all, SPLOST 6 is still in effect. You can't have two splashes going at the same time. And by SPLOST 7 being introduced right now, that means if it got approved, then it would be in effect at the same time with SPLOST 7. Then we're in violation. And so by that being the case, it's no legal way for SPLOST 7 to be on the table right now. I wouldn't have presented it.
So it's a technical issue with you. It's not necessarily the amount or what's being funded or not being funded. It's because it's technically not legal to do so.
Technically not legal, first and foremost. I think that the commissioners need to be at the table. I don't know what the issues are. I'm not proud of the way that they conduct themselves. Back and forth. Deke has never lost his composure. I give him credit for that. And I don't blame him for the things that the SPLOST have listed there. Folks wasn't present to put their bid in, so the information is not there. But we got things that need to be taken care of. You got Marion Home with those 50-year-old pipes in the ground. Those pipes been there in the ground, corroded, and funding for those pipes have come and gone, but the pipes are still there. And those pipes need to come up, and you got to put 18-inch pipes in the ground. Now, you got engineering and utilities pairing up to take care of that problem. And initially, engineering was saying that, well, we're trying to unite with utilities so we can do this at the same time. We want to do it in August. And I asked the question, I said, well, what would be the possibility of utilities just separating and doing it on their own since they got such a large amount of money at their disposal? And engineering is working on SPLOST money. He said, well, it costs $60,000 to separate and do it. I said, well, we spent $200,000 on a study, and that ain't working out for us. And but you got folks who are living in basically a contaminated area. We need to take care of those folks. So now, Bill Fenoy is the commissioner for District 1. That's one of the things I think. He supports SPLOST 7, but I think he should have included that with this SPLOST initiative.
Now, you said earlier you didn't know why some of the commissioners didn't show up for that meeting in which, SPLOST was voted on. But do you blame them for not being there? Should they have made some kind of special effort to be there, given the magnitude of SPLOST and what it means to the city?
I think if it was within their physical ability to be there, you got to be there to represent the people under any circumstance. You cannot help the city move forward by not attending a meeting, whether you like it or not.
On this sheet, it says you've worked with the younger population on some accounts. Can you say your experience and how you can connect with the younger generation in Augusta if elected mayor?
Well, I'm a basketball official. I officiate high school and junior high basketball. I'm a football game announcer. I own a semi-pro football team, put a kid in the NFL. Danny Kite went to the Indianapolis Colts. And on a daily basis, I interact with young folks. The Bethlehem Community Center, I ran it for 2 years free of charge because it was about to close. It's the oldest community center in the nation. And they were going to shut it down due to a lack of funds. You got those younger kids who get that after school meal. You got the senior citizen who was feeding, and we had that tutorial program that we was working. I had a lot of my military brothers come and do free tutorial. I ran it for free. I had the keys and the checkbook. And Calvin Holland, who was a commissioner at one time, when he retired from school teacher, I hired him to come and run the school program. You know, on that particular board at that time, our famed city administrator Fred Russell was on that board, and Dave Barber was on that board, and Edith Diamond and people of that caliber was on that board, and we sat down and we talked, and we always, you know, kind of chuckled about our differences, but we got along. We never got it at each other's throat. And the same thing with young folks. We got to respect where they are in terms of, you know, they don't see us in a great leadership role when we're arguing and bickering back and forth. You're not going to see Charles Cummings arguing and bickering. And you're going to see me communicating with those folks and understanding where they are and motivating them to use their skills that they have. Each one have a different skill.
How would you gauge the younger population's interest now? Is there a disconnect at all?
Disconnect from what?
From, you know, do they take an interest in government issues? Are they do they go to, you know, do they have an interest? Is there a disconnect in their interest of, you know, whether their taxes are going up or whether someone's approving or not approving a proposal?
If you got a kid in school, he's taking government, he's interested. If you got a kid struggling, trying to make a living, living in a home about to be torn down, he's probably trying to survive. It depends on the individual.
Are you fully retired right now? Do you have any businesses?
No, I don't have any business. I'm retired. I'm looking for a job. Yeah,
Well, what? Okay, so you no longer have an interest in Super C?
No.
Okay.
I ran it for 20 years. Excuse me, my contact lenses bother me here. And I met a lot of people, met a lot of friends, did a lot of good. I taught aerobics. I taught a free aerobics there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of folks came from far and near to take my class. And I had one lady lost 80 pounds just taking aerobics right there at my business. And the first voter registration that ever took place in South Augusta took place right in front of my business.
Now, you touted your experience as a businessman. Now, getting back to Super C for a second, one of the things, Super C had some issues back in the mid-2000s. A young man was killed there, and you lost your liquor license. Given that particular business has some issues, and you're touting your experience as a businessman, is that something that you think voters will hold against you, or is that something that voters should be concerned about, given that you are pushing your business experience?
Across the state, across the county, throughout the city, crimes are being committed. If you run a business for 20 years, chances are you're going to have a crime committed somewhere in your business or around your business. What I would challenge the public to do is to grade the individual and not the individuals who committed the crime, because crime will happen. It's going to happen in this building, at the courthouse, church, anywhere. To let that be the reason why you make a decision would put you at a disadvantage, because you'll be missing out on the best possible candidate.
You don't have any regrets about the type of business or the way business was conducted?
You know, if I own a McDonald's, Susan, and people have got shot at McDonald's, You ask McDonald's, do you regret opening McDonald's? And folks are still eating. People are still being inspired to work on the business. And he would probably tell you, you know what, it's a regretful thing. But at the end of the day, you still have to earn a living. You still have to run your business as best as you possibly can. I had 3 police officers working that particular night, and nobody saw that happen because there wasn't a fight going on. That individual had some issues going on in his life, and he brought him into my business. That's regretful. If it hadn't happened at my business, it would have happened at somebody else's business. And that's just how it goes.
You mentioned you're looking for a job, but that's not why you're running for mayor. I mean, if you wanted a job, you could.
I would just make it lighter.
You could get a job that'd be certainly a lot less of a headache, than being mayor. So, but I don't think anyone's asked why do you want to be mayor? Why are you running?
I'm uniquely qualified for it, Mr. Klein. I'm uniquely qualified for it. When I look at folks who never ran a business and they walk up and make a good speech and become one of your city leaders, and I can't put my hand on anything specific that I'm proud of, that anybody has done. And when I look at, what I've done as a private citizen, and then the encouragement of folks who know me, I get a lot of support from a lot of different churches and people who know my heart, know who I am. And they said, well, Charles, we need someone like you. A good friend of mine who passed away, Mr. Russell Tunnell, used to do gospel shows and whatnot. He said, Charles, when you become, involved in this city politics, folks gonna have to open up a lot of books because you're honest, but you're not gonna let folks just run ramshot with the money. And when I look at it, I don't see anybody that is actually trying to make a difference at that level that I can bring to the table.
Are there any public leaders or officials that you particularly admire or would try to emulate?
I think President Obama's doing a great job, don't you?
Does he know I work in the materials? This is about your views now.
Actually, we're talking quick.
Sure.
What about local political figures? Are there any of those that you most admire or feel a similarity to Augusta politicians?
No. And I did think about it, too.
Is the government of Augusta dysfunctional?
Yes.
Or is it just a perception? Okay.
Dysfunctional.
Okay.
For all the money we got generated around here, we don't know where it is. That's the perfect definition of dysfunctionality.
The commission is faulted a lot for being divisive, I guess, arguing with each other, maybe making too much of the argument and not enough of the solution to problems. Is there any way that you can talk about that you could bring people together or help cut down on some of that divisiveness, maybe improve the image of the commission?
I think what has to happen, and this is what I'm going to do, guys, when I become mayor of Augusta. I'm going to establish a report card, and each commissioner will be graded, and also myself as mayor, and by the citizens, first by their district, and then by the body at large. And if they make a decision that's unpopular, they'll know about it. If they make a decision that's popular, they'll know about it. And if they walk out on a meeting, abstain as a rule, because I feel that no commissioner should have and abstain on a particular thing because that's just the way they feel. I think the government would fail if someone comes with that attitude. I'm going to have professional development for my commissioners. And we're going to talk about the various things that affect each individual. And then I will bring in probably other folks that would teach professional development. Probably some of my military buddies, retired colonels and generals that I know and just talk about, you know, how do we get along. We don't have to like each other to get along. And then once we establish that, and we got an understanding of what is going on, then I want to take each commissioner, and we, as a group, we go out in the community, go through District 1 through 10. And each district, that commissioner will talk about the unique things that's going on in that district and why they're so passionate about what they're trying to get done. Because every district has something that they're trying to get done, and you can't blame anybody in West Augusta for trying to get the most they can for their constituent. You can't blame folks in East Augusta for trying to get the most in South as well. And so once we get a better understanding of what's going on in each district as a group, and we come back to the table, and I think we can have a better appreciation of how we're going to solve the problem. Now, the one thing I'm going to ask the guys to do is not embarrass the city, you know, by arguing and bickering and getting up and walking out. I'm going to ask that they sign a memorandum of understanding, and I'm not going to get up and walk out because it does not solve the problem. You know, we got people like the South Command coming to Augusta, and they're still looking at us. They're still, you know, not sure about our legislative department, our municipalities. So we need to make sure we step up to the plate and be good ambassadors for people who are looking at us.
When you say that, do you think there's a chance that the Cyber Command might not come here as a result of?
They're going to come. The plans has already been made, but to come under the under a watchful eye lends itself to the fact that we need to tighten up our act. We got an opportunity to tighten up our act, and it may prevent future businesses from coming. The transit, if we don't fix that, it's going to prevent businesses from coming. If we don't educate our folks, our young folks, so they'll be able to go to work for Cyber Command and the various businesses that might come up as a result of what's going on in Augusta, then we won't have an adequate workforce. We won't have adequate transportation.
Man, you mentioned about if you're elected mayor, you would start a report card.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's say the report card has already started. Well, how would you grade the mayor now and the commission? What grade would you give each of those entities?
Okay, I'm going to give 2 grades. I'm going to give a grade for the mayor. I'm going to give a grade for the commission by and large.
Okay.
Okay, and I give Deacon 75. I give him a passing mark.
Okay, that's a C.
C.
Okay.
It's a C, straight up C.
Why only a C?
I think D could be a little more aggressive. I think he does work behind the scenes to get things done, and he has, you know, been involved with things that's good for the city. He hadn't embarrassed us, hadn't done anything to make us say, you know, well, I wish he hadn't done that, you know, in terms of his, you know, actions. The commissioners, I got to give them a fair grade. I got to give all of them as a group, because I look at the commissioners as an entity.
D or F?
I give them a D because we hadn't collapsed as a city. We're not bragging about anything that they've done lately.
Now, with the report card and the professional classes and the community outreach, would that be an annually, quarterly, or
Quarterly.
monthly thing?
And it could be monthly, it depends. If we got a hot topic coming up, we're gonna say, hey, it's report card time.
Yeah.
But probably no less than quarterly.
Well, we all kind of know what the government is doing wrong. What, in your opinion, is the government doing right?
As a whole, they're managing not to collapse. That's it.
That's it.
You give me one more.
That's not exactly high praise.
You're right. I wish I could say something else. I wish I could point to some industry that one guy had particularly brought into town, one group of folks that is doing well. You know, High Parks is cleaned up now. District 1 got those pipes fixed. You know, West Augusta is, you know, doing great things and reaching across the lines and this kind of thing. But I don't see enough collaboration between those guys to give it and hide in the deep.
Okay. Take us forward 4 years. You're elected mayor. What's Augusta going to, in 2018, what's Augusta going to look like?
Mr. Wynn, it's going to look exactly the same. The only thing that's going to look different is the transit system is going to be up, vibrant, and running. Folks will be getting jobs because now they can get to work from South Augusta to Bobby Jones, and you'll have some folks who would say, had I not been able to learn how to become an entrepreneur, I wouldn't be making this salary now. The cosmetics of Augusta would not change in 4 years, and I'm not going to tell you a lie like it will. But you will see the progress. If you live here, you will know that progress and change is on the way.
Tell us, we have one more.
Yeah, I think maybe we have enough time for maybe a couple more questions. Yeah.
What do you think about the condition of downtown?
The condition of downtown, I think that we're missing out on a lot of economic opportunity because we don't have the transit coming through downtown. I think we're missing out on a lot of economic opportunity because we don't have Mr. Rubin and everybody else at the table on a regular basis talking about what's going on and getting recommendations from the folks the troopers, the folks who got boots on the ground. You know, folks who never ran a business shouldn't be able to dictate to someone who's been in business 30, 40 years. They got too much knowledge that we're just not using. You know, instead of criticizing and talking about our great leaders, and I'm gonna call them great because, let's face it, at the end of the day, those guys keep Augusta going with their businesses. If they decided, I've had enough, and they pull up and leave, Augusta shuts down. It's a ghost town. It's a ghost town. So we got to get those guys to the table and find out what they want. You know, I know they bring up security as an issue, but I'm not the security enforcer. That's something the sheriff does. You know, but as far as economic empowerment, I think that we should do everything in our power to make sure every single business on Broad Street and throughout Richmond County stays open. They pay into the tax base, they pay into the general funds. We shouldn't have a person going to a business that never owned a business trying to figure out how you're going to penalize that business. You should be trying to figure out, and that's one of the things I want to do with the local municipalities is that let's be kinder and friendlier. Let's be understanding and mindful of why this great city works, why it operates. It's the businesses. You know, without the businesses, we can say, well, you know, I'm the commissioner, I'm the mayor, you know, I'm the senator, but you're not planting any beans, you're not planting any greens, you're not selling clothes and shoes. So who are you? You just a representative that guy who planted the beans sent forward to represent. So we got to bring those business folks to the table in a real way. If we want Augusta to move forward, our businesses on Broad Street and throughout Augusta have to have an integral part of any modification going forward with the city.
Would you do anything special to bring those people to the table?
I just go and ask them to come to the table. You know, and they will come. You ask them, say, well, can I get you to come to a meeting when will your schedule permit? When will your schedule permit? You just do the paradigm. Boom. That's when everybody can meet. And throw a few holes on the table, Coca-Colas and water, and let's talk about it. Come on, Mr. Wayne, you know. You know, and these guys, they'll be glad to give you this information because they're not going to live forever. They want somebody to know. They want somebody to say, well, this guy brought this information to the table and this is why this is happening. Part of their legacy.
Well, as a businessman, what ways did you feel like you were ever penalized by the government here?
Well, you know, I tell you, I'm not going to take a personal stand on that because I don't want it to become personal. It's much bigger than Charles Cummings. This is not a personal thing.
Or if you want to answer it more broadly, I mean, what ways do you think now government or the way we operate in Richmond County is not friendly to business or penalizes business that could be changed?
If a person want to expand their business, then code enforcement should not create or use some law that is legal but not practical to tell them no. If, for instance, if a guy said, listen, I want to knock this wall out and go 10 feet this way, code enforcement come there with a ruler and said, well, if you do that, then you just a decreased amount of parking you could have, and that goes against the code, so you can't do it. That's not practical. And you hurting this guy from making more money to pay into the base.
In what way can the mayor, the mayor's office, address some of the core issues that's really affecting Augusta, such as high poverty, a failing school system, which is driving a lot of people from Augusta to Columbia County and North Augusta and that kind of thing? What role can a mayor play in reversing that trend? Let's leave it at that.
I think that the first thing, Mr. Williams, is that back to the transit system, we got to get the transit up and running in a vibrant way. Now, once we get the transit system up and running in a vibrant way and it's covering all of Richmond County, let's look at our alternative schools. Right now, if a kid is an alternative school, he has to provide his own transportation. There's no bus that goes out to South Augusta to pick that kid up. And so therefore, he's two-time truancy because he's just not going to be able to make it. The parents don't have a car, the parents got to go to work, and he can't get there. So that kid can't get educated. We got to provide transportation for these kids. We got to have a more effective communication line with the Board of Education so that we can create this transportation opportunity, give them a voucher so that they can catch the transit and get to school. I think that we got to create some kind of funding base that will subsidize teachers' pay, police pay, firemen's pay. And we can do that through a myriad of ways. We can do it through, having a professional basketball team or a football team sponsored by the city, generate funds, then we can have proceeds go and help pay for these furlough days that we have and various things of this nature. When you tear down schools and say you're going to rebuild them, but you're furloughing teachers, you don't have teachers to go into these schools to teach. We got to get a hold to how we're making our decisions. We're making bad decisions that does not lend itself to the success of the city. You got Lena right now on hold. They say they won't have the funds. So these persons who made this decision to tear it down supposedly made the decision with plenty of funds to tear it down and to build it back up. But right now it's not being built. It's money coming from SPLOST 6, but SPLOST 6 is exhausted. They've already borrowed money against SPLOST 7, and SPLOST 7 not even approved. So in order for us to move Augusta forward with education, economic, and society, we got to get a grip on our legislative body. And then we start there. Then we start to affect how we're going to educate these young folks and how we're going to keep them in school, how we're going to keep the teachers happy. I don't think one teacher should have to buy a book, or buy a pen, for their students. And you know this. I know you know. And that's how we got to do. That's how we got to deal with our problem. It's not a black-white issue. A lot of times it's brought down to that level because it's convenient. And we might have a different of opinion But I don't think in many cases it's because it's a black and white thing. I think it's convenient to make it look like that. But at the end of the day, everybody's trying to get what they want. You know, if it was a black and white issue, then, you know, probably Herman Cain wouldn't be a Republican, or, you know, somebody else wouldn't be a Democrat. You know, it's just not that. It's just not that cut and dry. I think it's an individual thing that we all have to look at, and once we kind of come to grips with what we're faced with and how we're going to move forward, because at the end of the day, we all want to eat and live and go home, you know, each day and come back out into the community. So.
Well, this is going to be a historic election in that we're going to have our first African-American mayor for the consolidated government. Is that significant?
Not significant enough to put a whole lot of conversation on it.
Mhm.